Have you ever been told to be honest, that the truth will set you free, that, honesty is the best policy? Well, what if that's a crock of BS? Today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at why the truth is wrong. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy? I didn't know that's the direction we were going, but that's cool. I like this.
Well, so I was listening to something, I can't remember what, but it was talking about how pretty much all of the world's problems come from this idea of the truth. And it's like, I mean, we see this right now in the Middle East. Like Israel thinks that their truth is right, and
Oh
Hamas
yeah.
thinks that their truth is right. Think that their truth is right, and the Republicans think that their truth is right.
Everybody
And so
thinks they
everybody,
have a
yeah,
unique perspective and they have the
the
only source
truth.
of truth. Yeah, which is hilarious when you think about it, because clearly that's not the case if everybody has a different perspective.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Weird.
I mean, I remember when I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, he was like super intent on finding the one and only truth and then making everybody else submit to the one and only truth. And it's just like, what is this? What is this going on?
You know what's funny though is I think on the one hand I think we do talk about because I think a lot of people that we look at like historical figures that have done amazing things, like big projects, significant works, things like that. They were they probably had a truth they were following. I won't say the truth, but a truth at least, right? So
Or maybe
something
like
that
a
was true for
principle,
them. Yeah.
you
Like if you look back at the ancient philosophers, it was definitely like they were interested in knowledge and wisdom and furthering that. That was pretty much what was motivating them to do this work, right?
Hmm.
And I think so there is that side of it, but yeah, maybe better to say like principle because I think, and this is the problem that we do. We've made truth into like this thing where like it's all or nothing too, which I find so problematic. Like with all this groups and splits we make within society, it's like you either believe everything or you're not part of this group. And it's like, well, that's ridiculous. Like clearly, I don't know. It just seems silly to me.
Well, so it's interesting because we did an episode a while back, and you said something that kind of blew my mind. How you just like you're like everybody lies.
Yeah, oh
Like it
yeah,
doesn't
totally.
matter. Everybody lies. But
Yeah.
like I was kind of reflect. I've been reflecting on that ever since we did that episode because for me that's like uh I guess when I was younger, I was indoctrinated into this like honesty is the best policy. You need to tell the
Yeah.
truth. And like anytime I didn't tell 100% the truth, I felt super guilty about it. And like in scouts there was being trustworthy, honest, all this different stuff. And so like I thought people have to be honest. And that was just such a mind-blowing thing that it's like everybody lies.
Everybody does that. But if you think about it, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because like I think a lot of times I don't think, and I when I say that, I don't think most people lie with the intent to harm or to hurt other people. I think that's rare. So like people that are cheating people, spammers, like that kind of stuff. I think that's actually rare. I think most people lie
Well,
because
according to my text messages, there's a
yeah,
lot of
right.
people that do
Actually,
that.
it's true, right? Oh God, now with the presidential election, it's like nonsense spam all the
Right?
time. But yeah, it's like, but I think most people, it's like, if you're gonna miss something and maybe you just don't feel like going, but instead you say you're sick because like it's easier, the other person understands, you don't want to hurt their feelings. What's wrong with that? I think everybody does that. And I think it's like, it's a part of like
Mhm.
navigating social interactions in like a way because like we don't know everybody that well. Like it's one thing, like I've known you for so long, like yeah, if something I should just tell you the truth, but like I know you really well, but like somebody at work, like I might not want to tell them the truth about something going on. I might not want to tell them the truth about like a
Mhm.
family member's. It might be something as simple as like a family member's illness, right? Or a
Yeah.
struggle they're going through. And so you just come up with something else that's like to deal with that social interaction.
So it makes me like wonder the foundation upon telling the truth and being honest and stuff like that. Because it's like, well, if the truth isn't right and if lying isn't right, so it's just kind of somewhere in the middle and just kind of best intent.
I think it's more just like look, I think we work society does function under this supposed like convention of truth telling, right? And I think this you can see this for simple stuff. Like if you ask somebody the time in the street, you're not going to cross-reference it, right? I always use that example in class. Like I'm not going to go ask 10 other people just to see if it's actually 3:05 or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Because we assume that people are going to generally tell the truth, especially on stuff like that. Like that's a factual thing, like what time of day, how far is this place? You know, So there is obviously I guess, a utilitarian benefit to telling the truth, but then you see that fall apart as soon as other interests, like, and as soon as you get into those you know, non-fact based things, like things that you can't measure, like when you talk about like
Mm.
what is the right political position, what religious beliefs are correct, all this stuff, you immediately get
Yeah.
into, a bunch of stuff that there's no way to prove it. So it becomes a matter of belief and a matter of perspective. And so there you get, I think, all kinds of stuff happening.
Mm.
It's easy for us, I think,
Yeah.
to be honest when we're talking about stuff that's like everyday and like factual, because yeah, it's like there's no reason to lie, I guess. But like other
Yeah.
stuff.
I read this book a while back called Radical Honesty about like telling the the 100% truth, even if it's painful and all this stuff. And they were talking about how back when LSD became illegal, these like little communes, they decided that, or they found out that by being radically honest, like telling the absolute ultimate truth, uh, it had the same effect as LSD. Like,
Yeah, makes people think they're in like bizarre land. Because think about it,
mhm,
because we're not, our culture is not founded on that. Like it's founded on rough truth, like kind of
mm.
truth most of the time, but not all. And
Like
social
we're
interaction,
number one.
yeah,
We're number one.
exactly. And like social interactions, I think are difficult. They are. And we interact with a lot of people every day that we don't really know. I mean, if you think about it, right? You go out anywhere, it's not like you're surrounded by like, I think maybe if you were in a small community like that where you knew everybody, but even then, like, we're not we're not that truth telling like to that extreme has not been normalized. I think people would have a hard time with it if people were honest about
Definitely.
everything. Yeah, because it would be like there'd be too much negative stuff, not intended to be negative at all, but just people would interpret it that way because they don't know how else to interpret it. So it's easier just to, you know,
Hmm. Yeah. I was laughing because, one time when I traveled abroad and I came back and, you see like the different educational systems and the medical systems
yeah.
around the world. And it's like come back to America and my friend who'd never left his state pretty much, he's like, yeah, we're number one best education system in the world. And I was like, dude, like look at any chart anywhere. It's like
We're
not
like
even
we're like
close.
67th. I
Yeah.
guess that's number one. But
We're
we're
like
number one when you compare us only to
number
those
one in the
guys.
contiguous United States.
Yeah.
Or contiguous North America, not counting Canada or Mexico. Yeah.
It is. It really is funny though. Yeah, but that's just it though. Like those beliefs and stuff, that's all culture stuff that has nothing to do with truth. So it's like,
Hmm.
of course it's gonna be, just belief. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But think about it,
So
how many times people
mhm.
ask you how you're doing and you say good. Like, are you
Yeah,
really
all
doing
the
good?
time.
I mean, because
All the time.
yeah, that's like just a social interaction. It has nothing to do with like actually, they don't want to hear what you're actually going through, like people,
Mm-mm.
it's a polite thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does one navigate telling truth and lies? When is too much? When do you know you're lying too much?
That is a hard one. I think, well, okay,
Because I think you get to a point and then you just believe your lies. Like you
that is
don't you
dangerous.
you
Yeah.
lose grasp with reality.
I think I always like what is it? Nietzsche actually said number one virtue is honesty, but he meant honesty with yourself. And
Mm.
I always like that approach because like when you start lying to yourself, that's when you're too far. Because like, saying I feel good when somebody asks me how I'm doing, that's like one thing. But like then believing it or lying to myself about it or convincing myself of something, that's a totally different situation. And so I think that might be a good bar, maybe, is like when am I lying to myself about things? When am I making things out to be like, false just to make myself feel better?
It is a really crazy situation that we live in because we can't read other people's minds.
No,
We can't tell when other people are in pain. Like
no.
all of these, we have a very, very limited grasp of this world that we live in,
Well, you know what's crazy
aside
too?
from, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about this too. Like, dude, think about back like before modern times and before like mass like industrialization and stuff, towns were small. And you probably knew there wasn't all these distractions like TVs and phones and stuff. You probably knew what was going on with most people, you know, more or less, because
like
one, you could,
95%.
yeah, because one, you could pretty much guess probably because it's like, oh, it's the
You
same
could
thing I
look
did
around you and
yesterday.
probably see
Yeah.
everybody that you knew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, so I mean, like, it must have been interesting back then because, like, you would have known if someone's lying, like, just
Hmm.
you could at least have a good idea. But now it's like, it's funny because, like, not only can we not know what's going on in people's heads, we're also living, like, as individuals around a lot of strangers. Like, we don't even know what the hell half the people do, like, in our towns and in our communities. And so, when you think about it, it is kind of strange. Like, it is very weird. And
And
yet we
even if
have to,
they
like,
tell us what they do, we have no idea what their job description means.
no. Yeah, because
Like
90% of them are these like
I'm
inflated
a
terms.
senior customer relations asset manager back in
Yeah, something or other.
finance year. It's like, oh, sweet. So what does your work consist of? I sit behind a computer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I fill out forms. But yeah, it's
Mm.
like it is funny though, because I think that is part of it. Like community is, no, I don't know. Community doesn't really exist that much. So it is very hard to know what's going on with people.
I had this funny thought the other day. I was like, if there's aliens out there looking down at Earth, they must think that like the goal of human life is to hold a phone up against your head as much as possible. Like they're like, why do people keep holding these little black bricks against their head? Like,
Constantly.
like that person's winning.
It is weird, right? But no,
Yeah.
we are. I mean, we're very it is funny that we don't have a very strong community and like I think I don't know. It is hard because I think like I guess I see the fear of lying and that lying can become a slippery slope. And like I think like doing it to intentionally harm other people, that's bad. And I always thought of like, when I'm lying to myself as being the biggest one too, as being a good indicator. Those two. Because I'm not whenever I lie, if I say something like false to other people, I'm not trying to get something from them, hurt them. Usually it's just that I either want to like I'm just being polite because I don't want to like burden them with stuff and I don't know them that well. Or it's because, again, I don't know them that well and I don't want them to know something about my life that's personal. So you just say something else and it's like, whatever. And I think that's fine. Or, I think a
Hmm.
lot of times we don't want to make people feel bad. Like we want to do something, but maybe something else
Yeah.
comes up and we can't do it. And so we just like, instead of being like, I can't do this because you might want to do it again later, you just come up with like, a fib,
Yeah.
the old white
Yeah.
lie.
Yeah. So the truth is wrong. Lying is wrong. And
But
then you
how
just
well
got to
do,
figure out
here's the
something.
other thing. How well do most people even know themselves? Forget about other people, because yeah, we can't, other people are like a black box in a lot of senses, right? Like we can't access what's inside. But like, how well do most people even know themselves? And I think this is the other side of it. Maybe if we knew ourselves better, we'd have a different understanding we'd be more forgiving too, I think, with other people if we knew ourselves better.
Yeah, like the master in the Tao Te Ching, you
Yeah.
know, just doesn't do anything with it. I love reading that because it's just like, yeah, that person knows what they're doing with life. But
Yeah. Living. They're just living.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep, seriously. All right, well, there you have it. That's why the truth is wrong and lying is wrong. And basically everything you do is wrong. And
You're
but
wrong.
we're humans. We make mistakes, we do wrong stuff, and then actually the Tao Te Ching says if you follow the Tao, if you if you seek you will find, and if you make a mistake, you'll be forgiven. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
Cool.
Taoism's very
Well,
forgiving.
I know, super
It's
cool.
super
Definitely,
awesome.
definitely didn't grow up with that mindset. Anyways, this is the Existential Stoic podcast. It's been a pleasure having you here again. Make sure to join us a few times every week. Can you believe it? And we'll catch you next time. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later.